Hi, I'm Tim Bader from Tim Bader Online. This is part 2 of a 3-part video series. If you missed part 1, make sure to check out the link below and watch that first. Last time, I encouraged you to eagerly desire spiritual gifts, especially prophecy, as it says in 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1. I explained how Paul says that in the context of a church meeting, prophecy is better than tongues because people can understand prophecy more easily. However, I also made the point that Paul's argument leads us to another reason to seek prophecy. That's because it's a foundational gift. It leads us closer to God, enables us to hear his voice, and helps us operate in the other spiritual gifts as well. Today, I'll go deeper and tell you why I believe we need help to grow in the prophetic and to learn how best to use this precious gift. Prophecy isn't necessarily something that comes easily or naturally. It's not as simple as saying spiritual gifts are given by God, so you either have them or you don't. The point I want to make is that God works primarily through people. Yes, there are times and places in the Bible and in today's church where God intervenes and he does things of his own accord. However, the vast majority of the time, he chooses to operate in relationship and cooperation with us, which, by the way, I think is amazing. In the Bible, in situations where God works a tremendous miracle, he usually informs us about it. For example, when Moses parts the Red Sea in Exodus 14, he announces the miracle beforehand. Let's hear what he has to say. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." This makes it absolutely clear that when Moses raises his staff and stretches out his hand and they see the waters of the sea part before them, they know it's God working his miracle through a man, not Moses himself working alone. Most of us don't end up performing miracles as dramatic as that. However, suppose you wake up one morning and you suddenly realise that God has blessed you with the gift of prophecy. What do you do now? How do you make sure that what you hear from God is correct? How can you be sure that you really heard from him? How do you know what the Lord wants you to do with it? Have you understood the message properly? Or maybe a few months or years later, when you're a bit more practiced at the basics, how do you continue to grow your gift into full maturity? How does God want to continue to work through you? Well, that's where you need a bit of help, and the type of help you need will change depending on where you are in your prophetic growth. If you're at the beginning of your journey, then you may be loitering on websites like this one to try to find out more about the subject. Well, that's a good first move, but there's always more to learn, of course. You'll learn the most directly from God himself. Hence, you'll need to spend plenty of quality time with him to learn to hear his voice. But you also have to discern his will so you know what he wants you to do with the prophecies you receive. The Lord doesn't always want you to share them immediately. He may have something else in mind. Now, if you're a little further on, you'll probably want to understand more about subjects like interpretation. How do you learn to understand prophetic words and pictures so that you can share them effectively with other people? When the Lord drops a picture into your mind, if you can't work out what it means, then it's going to be difficult to explain it to somebody else. How do you get more detail in the prophecies you do share to make them more specific and bring more blessing into people's lives? If you're further on still, you may begin to wonder whether God has placed a prophetic calling on your life. And that could be a completely new ballgame with all kinds of implications. You may need to work through that with a trusted friend. Well, I'd love to get straight into some of the details on this, but that would make this video far too long. Today I've looked at the why you need help to grow in prophecy. Stay tuned for next time when I'll discuss some of the how. There'll also be a special bonus for everyone who watches the next video through to the end. In the meantime, let us know your thoughts by sharing where you are in your prophetic journey and the main thing that you want to learn next. And P.S. if what I've said in these videos so far has spoken to you, you may also be interested in my new book, which goes into a lot more detail about things like the stages of prophetic growth. I'll place a link to it below so you can find out more. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.